It's a capital city whose name we instantly recognize, a faraway city in a faraway land, a city with over 8 million people living in it, people who over the years we've known as both our friends and our enemies. Well, I'm right in the middle of that city right now with some of the people who live here, the students at school number 46. Now, they're just some of the people we're going to meet as we say, hello, Moskva.
All right, folks, it's Huell's Gold. We're back for our in-betweener.
This is a good one. It covers
Good ones.
What's that?
Good ones.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, the show will be a good one.
Our show.
It is. It is about 3 visiting episodes.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of material, but it's all good stuff.
Yeah. I'm calling it Huell Goes to Moscow.
Okay.
Because it is kind of the saga of Huell and his kind of, would you call it a love affair with Russia?
He was pretty into it.
If this was happening now, there'd definitely be some allegations of collusion. But thankfully, it's not now. But I wanted to bring this up because, obviously, without getting too political on this, Russia's in the news all the time now, again. And, we kind of forget that Russia was in the news a lot back in 1990, where our story starts. Also, for similar but kind of different reasons. And I guess this is what prompted Huell to want to go to Russia in the first place, it was just this mysterious,
Well, it's one of the rare, which I don't think he really, I guess he's interested in the transitionary period, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't get to observe that very much. So I'm guessing Huell saw this as an opportunity to see something interesting that you don't really get to see ever, which is like regime changes.
So our story is going to start with a video log episode called Hello Moscow. And this was kind of a long-form video log as opposed to the couple-minute bumper versions that Huell did prior to California's Gold. And this kind of aired almost right around the time California's Gold started. Mm. So Huell decided to go by himself to Soviet Russia on just a tourist visa.
Well, and the way he talks about it is like, I just want to see what it was about.
Yeah, it's a very innocent premise.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, this episode is not on Chapman. So we're having to go to YouTube for this. So if you're wanting to ever watch along with us, we're looking at the Visiting with Huell Howser, Hello Moscow double episode. Then the first part of it is that 1990 first visit to still Soviet Russia. And, well, the video really starts with Huell in 2007 kind of giving... This is kind of like a Out of the Vault episode that they did in 2007, showing both the 1990 and the 1991 visits Huell did to Russia, both by himself. I can't stress that enough. It's so crazy that did this.
He never really gets into it, but I was always curious, the family that hosted him. How did he
hook up with them?
Yeah, exactly.
There must have been something. There must have been some sort of producer for this show that helped broker this deal, I guess. But I think we should hear Huell's version of why he's going and kind of get us wrapped into the world of Moscow. So Huell, hit it for a minute.
Now, I have always been interested in the Russian people and their history and culture. So one day I just decided I want to go over there, and I went, not through any formal government exchange program, not as a journalist, but as an American tourist, and I took along with me my little high-8 camera to record it all. Now, this was a very exciting time to be there because democracy was just beginning to be in the air. But this program is not about politics. This program is about the people of Russia. It stands the test of time, and now after 16 years, we're taking it down off the shelf and taking a look at it, and once again are able to say, hello, Moscow.
All right. So this show definitely has a weird vibe to it because it is just Huell behind the camera.
Yeah.
And right off the bat, like Huell doesn't. Well, our cold open, I guess you could call it.
Literally a cold open.
Because it's dead of winter, too, because it's January. And the clip you just heard is Huell in a classroom, which we'll come back to that bit later. But the real meat of the show starts with some dogs.
And they're always in someone's jacket.
Yeah, because what did they call this?
I just referred to it as a pet market.
Well, yeah, it had a name. It went too quick. I couldn't catch it. But either way, it's a pet trading square. And basically all these people are out here buying, selling, trading cats and dogs and ducks. And
So minus the animals, this is exactly what I imagine Russia to be like.
yeah, like fur hats,
Everyone's
snow.
bundled up.
Yeah. People coming into camera. And this definitely has a home video vibe, and Huell calls it like a home video camera, his high-8 camera a lot. And I mean, this kind of gives us our first glimpse into that communist world that I guess Huell's wanting to give us a window into. Because would you call this like a black market kind of a thing, maybe? I mean, not too like what you would actually think.
Well,
of a black
I think
market.
a lot of times in the transitionary periods between these areas, they were just trying to figure stuff out. It's like it technically could have been a black market, but I don't think it was. You know what I mean? I don't think police were going out and looking for pet trading.
No.
So maybe I think they call it a gray market. You're not sure.
Well, Huell said that in the 2007 little intro to this part that democracy was in the air.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not super learned in the fall of the Soviet Empire or anything. I know a little bit just from documentaries, but it's not like the Soviet Union falling was right away. I mean, there were, as Huell said, kind of inklings that it was happening, and I'm sure this was maybe a little bit of it. This pet trading market where they're trading Moscow circus poodles.
Well, also we get to meet this the Black Hound.
Yeah.
Which is one we're watching right now.
Mm-hmm.
Did you notice when Huell said, "Can you pick up his head a little bit for me?"
She just pulled
She
the
pulled
skin
his
back.
skin.
Like in Men in Black when the bug guy pulls his... is that better?
I thought that was so funny.
So,
oh man.
There's like lots of quick transitions in this, so we're just going to jump from
before we leave
thing to that. Okay.
We got to talk about one dog, which was Smog.
Smog the dog?
Smog the dog. And Huell said, "Oh, we would love that in Los Angeles."
Yeah.
Right. So, and then it reminded me that it's kind of a dumb name, but we had a hockey team called the Fog.
Yeah. The Bakersfield
So
Fog. Because of all the Thule fog that we don't even really get anymore.
Yeah. Well, and also in this bit, we get to meet Anastasia.
Yeah,
which
yeah.
later in the show, she goes by a different name, which is a lot more fun. But we'll get to that.
Yeah, yeah. But
And,
she's almost like the constant guest, because Huell always needs someone to be talking to constantly.
Right.
And because she's the translator, you hear her voice almost more than Huell's.
Yeah, yeah. And this
Let me ask
just
you
for
something.
everyone. This is not the same Anastasia the Disney movie's based
No.
on. So
Let me ask you this, though. Does her voice get stuck in your head?
only when there's like tense shifts, and just it's incorrect.
Yeah, yeah.
English, that's what gets lodged.
There's something about
into my brain.
that, like the way that her rhythm to speaking, rhythm in speaking, gets stuck in my head the same way that like Mitch Hedberg's voice does. Like
Okay.
if you know him, which I hope all our listeners know who Mitch Hedberg, the comedian, is. He's got a certain delivery in his stand-up one-liners that once if you hear it a couple times, you just start talking like him. So I noticed that I watched, all these episodes, and I started like mentally having her voice in my head, and I was like, oh man.
No, that didn't happen. That's funny though. Yeah, there's one bit. Well, never mind. I won't bring it up right now. We'll get to it.
Okay.
We'll talk about it.
So we're shifting gears. We're at the pool, and we're meeting some characters at the pool for sure.
Which my favorite character is the self-massaging lady who decides to demonstrate her tool by massaging her sternum and her shin bone.
It's just like this rolly stick thing.
Why would you choose the boniest parts of your body to show someone?
And Huell makes sure to make note of the fact that it's below zero out here, and everyone's just swimming in this heated pool, but then they get out and they're just hanging out in their Speedos. No problem.
Well, he also says that these Russians love every steamy minute.
Yeah.
Which is great. But you're right. He said even below zero. I mean, I don't think it was below zero here, but yeah, they're just standing out there barefoot.
Yeah, they don't even care. And another quick jump. It's going to be really slamming through this. We get to the gym part, and Huell really seemed to feel right at home at the gym. He kind of says that.
Yeah.
And, this kind of seems like the gym I would expect in Soviet Russia.
Well, yeah, it's funny that he said he felt at home, because I thought it looked sort of chaotic.
I mean,
a bit.
To
I
be
don't
fair,
know what's going on.
Yeah, I didn't go into gyms in 1990. I was only, 6 years old. So maybe this is what gyms were back then. I don't know.
Maybe you're right, yeah.
But lots of just free weights, calisthenics, people doing things that would hurt their backs really bad. It's interesting visuals, and Huell's doing what he's going to end up doing a lot in these episodes is just kind of ask these very simple questions of people, but then allows them to ask him questions. And pretty much all the questions that people ask Huell are, do people in America do what we do?
Yeah.
And it's always like, do people in America like to go to gyms? And then Huell says, well, not all of them. A lot of people like to sit on the couch. We call them couch potatoes. And then it gets translated. Riotous laughter ensues.
There was a bit, speaking of that, asking about America. The older lady, I think she's the second to last interview in the gym.
Oh, yeah.
Are you going to get to that?
No, go ahead.
Okay, yeah.
I forgot about it.
She asked the question, what did she say at first? Do they smile a lot when they're at the gym? And what do their bodies look like? And then he kind of gave her an answer. He says, and she basically was saying, like, are they bigger?
Yeah.
Big women?
Yeah.
Which I thought was just hilarious. It was kind of weird, too, at the same time.
And then there's the lady at the end who actually looks like one of my friend's moms, but I won't say who. And her quote, she's the only person who speaks in English during this segment. She just says, healthy, wealthy, and wise. No context. Just yells that out. But the gym part kind of ends with a musical interlude.
What do you call this? A gift? A delight?
Yeah, it's let's just hear it. I'm just going to throw it to the clip. We need to hear this. So here you go. You're welcome.
Проводница важна и интеллигентна. Она приносит кофе с улыбкой агента госстраха. Добрым утром. Предлагает газеты, брошюры. Читаю. Больных ракетоманией под замок. Парадоцент хиромантии не станет доктором. Не хватит ли
It was standing room only in Melodia, one of the largest record stores in Moscow. Located on Kalalinsky Prospect, one of Moscow's busiest shopping streets, the store is always crowded with customers in search of the latest releases. Now, there are no tapes or CDs to be had, and most of the albums are by Soviet artists, although a few Western groups are available. And what kind of music do Muscovites prefer? Well, it depends on who you ask.
Disco.
I like disco music.
Disco music?
Disco music?
Most people like... Does he like heavy metal?
А вам нравится тяжелый металл? Well, it depends.
All right. So I extracted this, and I had this playing in a loop all night last night. I fell asleep to it. It's my going to sleep music.
It's funny because, I actually posted this little clip like 9 months ago or something on Instagram because I saw it and just loved it. I loved the song, the visuals, everything about it.
So for me, it was the lady in the purple jumpsuit.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So I just thought, let's just give it a shot. Let's Shazam it. That puppy came up.
Okay. Who do we got?
Vladimir Kuzmin, and the song is called While Not Come Monday, which is also the name of the record. And it's on YouTube also. It's got about 45 views, something like that.
45?
Yeah.
That's like Lampett's Salamis.
That's right. But this song rips. I love this song. And all of his songs sound like that too. I don't know if I haven't looked more up about him beyond this one record. But it's the start of our next segment, which is...
I was going
what
to
do you
say,
gotta say?
before if we got any skateboarders out there, this is great music.
For a skate video song?
Oh, yeah.
Well, some of our next patrons wouldn't like it so much, I don't think, because we're headed to the record store. And this was one of my favorite little bits of this episode, because these people are really, like, it seems like they're kind of starving for Western music. I mean, we got Pink Floyd posters, we got military men saying they like Madonna.
Well, my daughter does.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah, for sure.
And there's still disco being listened to. And Huell asked this young guy, he said, what kind of music do you listen to? He says, disco. And Huell says, disco, not heavy metal? He says, not really, some. He likes disco.
Heavy metal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
So,
I was wondering disco.
I mean, who knows what he was really meaning?
Yeah.
Or maybe, Donna Summer fan, who knows?
Well, the contrast, though.
The contrast that comes next between the elderly gentleman who is asked about rock and roll music and says that it's horrible. It's not real music. And then there's a lady in a big fur, like a Bactria hat, who is laughing at him. And Huell pulls a Huell on her. She didn't know. She doesn't know Huell. And calls her out like, oh, why are you laughing? She's like, oh, well, I disagree. And then there's this, like,
before
kind of tense thing going on.
Yeah, so you'll see on a screenshot this Sunday. But he just has the most serious face. And I was wondering what he was meaning by music. Like, this is not good music. And then he finally throws out a name.
Yeah.
Glenn Miller. Mm-hmm. Jazz. It's like smooth jazz.
It's like big band stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
The bane of Goodwill record hunters. It's in every Goodwill, everywhere. As much as people seem to love Glenn Miller, they certainly got rid of those records in the droves.
Yikes.
And then to bump into our next segment, Huell uses a song that baffles me how he would be able to get away with this.
I don't remember it.
It's Back in the USSR by the Beatles. Huell uses a Beatles song without any repercussions, I'm sure. Because he can just do that. It's funny that he would have the thousands, millions of viewers that he would end up having over the years. And I feel like we would get in trouble faster than he would if we played that Beatles song right now.
Absolutely.
But he does it. And it gets us into our next segment, which is the barbershop. I don't know. There's not a whole lot going on. It's pretty...
I was surprised that this was the largest barbershop.
It's not that big. It's got, like 20 people in it.
Yeah.
And just cats roaming around.
So is this the barbershop cat? And they say, no, we should have a lot of stray cats running around.
Close the door. It's cold outside. The one funny interaction was Huell asked what the barber lady could do to his hair. She stares at him for a long time. And then just says, oh, no, yours is good. You look very young and handsome. Huell was liking that. He was into that. What did you think about our next part?
Mrs. Matlock?
Yeah.
I thought that she was a horrible translator.
I also think that Huell caught her in a bit of a fib.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So Rebecca Matlock is the wife of the ambassador, the U.S. ambassador to Russia. And their first little interaction is at the gate, and there's kind of like a little guard there. And she's going on about how, everyone here, they're friends of mine. I like them. They're great. And then Huell just says, the ultimate just like slap in the face question, what's his name? And she's like, and has to ask him his name, which I didn't catch.
I didn't catch either.
Dang.
But that's what I thought was funny. Well, did you notice, though, that scene when they did the first transition? Huell kept the bit where he drops his glove.
Yeah.
Like, why did he do that? But maybe it was the only shot he had.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking that because he doesn't have Louis with him. So I'm thinking that he had Anastasia hold the camera for him.
Oh, true.
And he's just like, just screw it. Just that's it.
So maybe a lot of this is actually to the credit of Anastasia.
I think she had to really help out with this more than she probably signed up for.
So does he ditch Mrs. Matlock real quick after he catches her in that fib?
No, I mean she takes him to this the Central House of Artists, and it's kind of just a modern art exhibit, not too different than what we would have here, but this specifically is a kinetic art exhibit, so that these things are moving.
What do you think of
machines?
The first piece?
So all these things just like look like crazy contraptions that, if they had saws on them, they would be on that robot fighting show. What was that called? Robot Wars or whatever the heck.
That sounds about right.
God, I used to watch it all the time. I can't remember.
I know
what
the guy
called.
from MythBusters.
Yeah,
was on it.
Oh well.
Yeah.
I think Chris Jericho hosts a version of it now.
Oh, what?
Yeah, or did anyway.
So this first piece, what do you think of it?
So when I first looked at it, I thought, okay, just a bunch of wobbly-goo mover things. I don't know. Don't know what to think about it till you brought it up.
Well, my first thought.
Yeah. Okay.
Are you seeing it too?
Okay, yeah.
So my first thought was, wow, this guy really took all the technology they didn't have before the collapse.
Yeah.
And then put it into one piece. And then we noticed that it is more of a how do you say this? PG. It's a provocative piece.
It's phallic in nature?
Yes. We'll just let you see it.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to the video.
Yeah. The YouTube video specifically.
The YouTube video specifically. What time is that at?
Well, you can see it at like 16:05 and on for a couple seconds.
And there's a up close, and whatever the glass vials, there's fluid circulating through it.
Yeah, it's like green.
So just you'll take a gander if you want.
It's not too hard to conjecturize what this might be.
Okay, and we'll leave it at that.
Yeah. So we're staying on the art kick, but this is more of a, I don't know, like a little street market thing, like you would see any old place. This looks like Second Saturday in Bakersfield.
Oh, this is the flea market in
Izmalovsky Park.
Okay.
Yeah,
and this is still going on actually.
Is it?
Yep.
Okay. Well, Huell really was surprised, I guess, to see things being sold, because you think you go to a communist country, you're not going to see free open market, sales of things. I guess I wouldn't either, especially back then. And he had a different way of putting it. He called it capitalism gone berserk. Selling little things on the side of the road.
Because he said private enterprise, capitalism gone berserk. I said, "Oh, okay." It's really just a little flea market.
Yeah.
This guy's ties. All right.
Yeah.
His ties.
Yeah, they're just these kind of like clip-on-y kind of ties that he wrote stuff on with puff paint.
I mean, the guy he'd probably do a better job being a stand-up comedian.
Yeah.
Or just a TV personality, because he was pretty entertaining. Mm-hmm. But the ties, Like, I heart KGB. Like, what?
I'm assuming that these are all meant to be ironic in nature. Because, like, I love Gorbachev. I love KGB. And the guy doesn't look like a serious type.
That's true. No, you're right.
He looks like a jokester a little bit.
To me, though, this is what I was thinking, is that there has to be people that are on both sides. And I was just curious if he, I don't know.
We'll get into that in the second bit. But then we're heading towards where the rest of the story is going to take over, in a sense. We're heading to an apartment of...
Well, do you want to save this?
To the very end?
Till the very end? And we could just skip it and come back to it?
Yeah. Okay. So if you're watching the video, you're going to see a part, ignore it for a while, I guess. And then we're going to head to another person's apartment, which this is just a quick little thing. I did not catch this lady's name.
Oh, it's Tatiana Kuznetsova.
Maybe that's why I didn't.
I'm trying over here.
She's a Russian literary translator, and it's kind of cool. I don't know how Huell found her, but she is, like I said, a literary translator, and she's responsible for translating a lot of American and Western literature into Russian, including her kind of claim to fame, Gone with the Wind. And it looks like it took her like almost 18 years to get the thing published.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But she did. And that's cool that she did it. And that's kind of it. Like, it's a pretty short thing. She seems like an important figure in that whole history of Russia. Like, well, I guess I can go into this a little bit. It kind of ties in with the record thing because there's a lot of bootleg Russian records that came out of the Soviet Union, 70s, 80s, 90s. Mm-hmm. And there are these sought-after ones that were pressed on old X-rays, X-ray records. I don't have one. I've always wanted one. But there were a lot of other bootleg records that were not as, underground.
X-ray, like the materials?
Yeah, like, I guess the when X-rays used to be printed out on big, like, kind of photo plastic things. I don't know what exactly the technology was, but I know it was like this kind of thicker plastic stuff. And they would cut it into a disc and press a record onto it. I don't think they last. Most of those kind of lathe cut things don't last very long, but there were other records that were bootlegged in Russia that were less underground. Well, the music was underground, but the I guess the process wasn't. Like, and they would have to recreate the cover art in a way. I have one of those. It's a Sonic Youth record, and the cover of the real record in the U.S. is this painting of a candle, and then they just took a picture of a candle and put the text on it kind of in the same way. And I guess the same thing was happening with these books. I don't know how legal or like sanctioned these things were. She didn't really get into that too much, but it's interesting stuff. And then we get to the school. Well,
what do you
wait? I do have. Okay. I got a clip. I forgot. I got a clip to get us into the school. So, Huell, tell us about the school.
Peter Piper picked of pickle, a pack of pickled pepper, packed of pickled pepper, picked of Piper, picked.
And this is our sailor. Let's pronounce, please. 2, 3. A sailor went to see what he could see, and all he could see was sea.
Now, it looks like a lot of fun, doesn't it? And it is. But these days, Moscow students are dead serious about learning English, starting in the earliest grades. I saw this firsthand when I spent a whole day visiting with students and teachers at school number 46 in a Moscow suburb. How will they use English when they grow up?
Oh, we hope we'll come and visit your beautiful country.
Okay. You took you took, I wouldn't call it a foreign language. You took sign language in school. Yeah. I took Spanish. Was this your experience, what you're seeing in the clip here?
having a party?
Yeah, right? This dance party going
No.
on? They were listening to that Vladimir Kuzmin song, While Not Come Monday.
Is this how you're going to run your class? You're a teacher?
I'm not as exuberant as the teacher that we're seeing in this part is, just in my own demeanor. Plus, I mean, there's not much dancing you can do in a history class. I mean, without being a little weird about it,
Right,
or maybe
right.
even culturally insensitive, depending on the subject matter. But these kids seem into it.
Dude, they are psyched.
Yeah. And,
But then it's a complete 180.
dude, in the
They're
hallway?
totally quiet. No, this
Oh,
goes. It goes.
yeah. To start with.
It goes extreme, other extreme, back to the extreme.
Yeah. So super
extreme.
well behaved in the class.
And she says, "What does the teacher say?"
About fidgeting?
Yeah, that's right. They say, "I just tell the kids not to fidget," and he'll laugh. Says, "Oh, not to fidget?"
Yeah.
I guess it works.
Yeah. And then Huell goes to the hallway, which, bedlam, just hallway
Right.
stuff. High school in the hallway. And then we get back to the classroom, and we're with another teacher, and Huell is kind of a jerk to her. Did you think?
Yeah, it wasn't the. I mean, she
I don't wanna-
didn't
I'll
really
take
pick
that
up
back.
on.
It's
No,
not
no. Well, I
jerk.
know what you're saying though. She didn't pick up on it, so
No.
I'm gonna let it. You let it slide. You don't be too hard on it. But it was sort of.
It looks like this lady learned English from someone with a British accent.
Yes.
And Huell kind of points this out, and it's odd because Huell has a very distinct accent himself that's very easy to imitate and often kind of made fun of. Especially later in his years when he had his "That's Amazing" catchphrase, everyone would say it with that drawl to it that, he was, I guess, okay with, but it seems odd that he would mock playfully, but still, to the lady's face, her,
Reference to. Oh, they say it's from Oxford. It's like
Oxford. Oh, man. But,
Oh, then we meet the what kid.
oh, dude.
That was too good. Just
Yeah.
his face at the end of it. Okay, so I'll set it up.
Yeah.
So Huell is talking to a kid from the class, which looks like he's one of the better students. I don't know. Maybe he's an average student, but he speaks English pretty well.
Way better
And-
than I could speak Spanish after 3 years of Spanish.
Yeah, but he totally misses the cues, which he obviously doesn't have. He's just learning the language.
Yeah.
But then there's a bit at the end when Huell says, "Wow, you speak English so well, you should get an A." He looks at him and says, "What?" Dude, his face was such a
What?
kid face.
So, you know how sometimes Huell would do that kind of what thing too when someone would say something a little surprising to him
Yeah.
when he's out here? What? Maybe he was always imitating this kid because let's keep this in mind. This show was taped before California's Gold had ever aired.
Mm-hmm.
The show was kind of like in the works according to our timeline, but I think they came out like right around the same time. So this is pre-California's Gold Huell. He isn't years into his time yet. But, yeah, the what kid is
Yeah.
great.
And then you get a sweet girl after the kid, the what kid.
Yeah.
And she teaches Huell a word, which is drusaba.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, "What does that mean?" And she says, "Friendship." And I said, "Oh, that's so sweet." And then it cuts off. And now where are we?
No, well, now we're back to the segment prior because we need to go over. We need to head to Ludmila and Roman's house. We didn't get there.
That's right.
So, like I said, we skipped this over. So go back in your video if you're watching along to the segment with the tea and the cakes. Ludmila and Roman Genn. And Huell met them at that flea market that we were at a segment prior because Roman, who's, what'd you say, like 13 at the time?
Yeah, I'd say so.
He is a cartoonist. And
Well, no, he's a little older than that. He's 19, 18. Because, right, he's 20 years old when he comes to the States.
That's right. Okay.
And then, anyways.
Yeah.
So he's an upper,
looks
upper
younger.
teen. Yeah, he does look on. He's upper teens, though, I think.
But his mom, Ludmila, brought Huell to her apartment for tea and cake. It's a special cake that her mother invented, she says. Looks like a meringue kind of a thing.
I thought it was just meringue. She had a fun name for it, though. Did you catch that?
E-men-yeah-men-yeah.
Did you write it the same way I did?
Yeah, pretty much. Just this phonetic way, because that's how she says it.
The only way I could. Yeah, she just pauses and it's like emphasis.
Yeah, yeah. And Huell's kind of really enamored with this Roman kid's art, and it's really good.
It is good.
It's very kind of exaggerated caricature style cartooning, and all pretty political.
Do you think that he would have drawn Frasier?
Dude, yes.
Do you think he would have drawn him the same way?
Yeah, maybe even worse. You could tell that Huell really likes this kid and thinks that he's got some talent to him, and it could have just stopped there.
Yeah,
that could have been the end of it.
He might think he's brave as well,
yeah.
Just drawing those kinds of things.
Totally, because it ended up being quite brave of him to do what he did. But we're gonna pause on the Genns right now. We'll come back to them because we're into part 2 of our first video, the Visiting with Huell Howser, Hello Moscow, again on YouTube, not on Chapman. And Huell, really, he kind of was a little early to the party in Russia because within, I would say, 18 months, everything's changed. There was a military coup, which he explains in the bumper between these two episodes from 2007, that there was a military coup. Mikhail Gorbachev was able to remain in power, but after he was, back in power in the Russian White House, he dissolves the Soviet Union as we know it, basically ending communism in Russia. It's a complete end of Cold War, incredible political and social change that happened, and Huell decides, I gotta go again.
Mm-hmm.
And he does. And so we're in part 2. It's called Back to Russia, or Back to Moscow, sorry. So we're fast forwarding 18 months. He's back in Russia. It feels very much the same. It's the same camera style. It's probably the same camera.
Nastia.
Yeah.
She went by a different name this time.
What?
I don't know. I don't know how it comes out of it, but I know
it's totally her.
So, cause I had to go back to make sure it was the same person because we hadn't seen her yet.
Mm-hmm.
But then I noticed that on her jean jacket, she had an A patch attached to it. So.
And at the end of the credits here, it does have her full name spelled out. So, yeah.
Is that what you heard too? It was, yeah, Nastia.
Yeah.
Nastia, yeah.
Huell kind of mispronounces a lot of things on these videos, which, I can't blame him. He doesn't speak Russian, so okay. So we start off in a taxi. Huell's doing interviews to other motorists across the way, and then we get to the White House where the coup actually went down. And
dude, he gets so close to people's faces as he's walking by. Well, anyway, that's a side note. But.
Yeah. But it's amazing that the coup really only happened like a few weeks before this. So he's like right up in the aftermath of a major political upheaval in this country, just shoving the camera in these people's faces.
Yep.
There's graffiti that he goes over. Like,
what was that? There was an intense one. It was a good communist is a dead communist.
Yeah. And Huell tries to make it clear that he's not here for any political reasons, and really, as a whole, he succeeds, I think, in this whole series here, because he shows his whole, I guess, thesis statement of sorts is that despite all the big political things that are happening between Russia, the U.S., everything, that there's still people in this country, and that's what he wants to get to, is the people. And he does so. And he finds that even in Russia, there's silly people saying and doing silly things. And he goes to the Red Square to prove just that. Now,
Well, we're in front of Lenin's tomb, right?
It's weird because Lenin's tomb used to just be open back then for decades. Like, he was just
cruising.
Just laying there. Like, you could just see his embalmed body forever. Well, they thought. Until communism fell. And now they're in the middle of moving it. And
even now?
Well, no. I'm now the proverbial now of 1991 where we're talking.
Oh, right. But they ended up... So that ended up not happening, though.
Yeah.
Right? So he's still cruising.
Yeah. It's a weird thing to think, but it's very interesting.
Do you have any desire to go to
Russia?
Russia, yeah.
Kinda.
Or I guess Moscow.
Moscow specifically, yeah. I mean, I don't know about like.
I called it like the Idaho, Moscow,
No.
Moscow.
No, maybe on a honeymoon I could go there because that's seems to be a thing to do. Because there's a tradition, I guess, of married couples going and hanging out in Red Square.
Dude,
I don't know why.
It's weird, but one of the funny things that happens is Huell just rails this guy.
Right off. He's like giving him some feminism tips right off the bat. Like, hey, your wife's not talking. You better speak up, lady.
And then she's kind of,
Yeah. What do you want me to say?
But yeah, so Huell blows this guy up. And this was already sort of entertaining, but what was more entertaining to me was as they walk away, you get the winker. Yeah. Okay? There's a guy walking, trailing behind them in a white shirt, and this happens at 35:24.
Yeah.
Which gives a nice wink with his members-only jacket. So it's dumb. But.
Oh, man. And then Huell finds that there is some real deal black markety stuff going on because people are selling scratchers over on the other side of the square. And Huell's just having fun with these people buying their scratchers and, oh, did you win? Did you win? And they insist that he buys some, which he does. And you kind of forget that Huell doesn't... He's very unseen in these shows. He's not on camera because he's holding the camera most of the time. But he hands Anastasia the camera for a second, and we see that Huell is wearing the Fish Stick Man jacket in Russia. So the Fish Stick Man has been all over the place. So switching gears, we go to the subway, not the restaurant, the actual conveyance.
We'll get to those chains soon, though.
Yeah. Because he's taking the subway to a very special place, apparently, in Moscow. The first McDonald's.
Yeah. And this place is slammed.
Dude. He said, like, oh, this is the biggest barbershop in the other episode. This is the biggest McDonald's I've ever seen anywhere.
It's as if some event got out and everyone's at In-N-Out.
Yeah.
All the time.
It's like the whole place, it looks like it's as big as like an entire food court at a mall. But it's just McDonald's.
No, this is the Kettleman City In-N-Out.
that one slams.
All the time. So there is one bit, though, that I thought was pretty funny. And that was, there was a lady, a worker, I should say, who decided that she wanted to mop
shoot,
in a crowd of people. And people are walking over the wet floor.
Well, wait a minute. If you look back, when is this? It's like 38 minutes and about 17 seconds.
It's 38:26.
20, okay.
I'm sorry, 38:44.
If you look, though, there's a little kid standing right next to where she's mopping. And the kid is like being really, really still, almost like she maybe dropped something and is feeling kind of weird about it.
Yeah, that's a good one. Well, there's also another bit that happens directly after that. And if you notice that the worker just wants to give the person their money back.
Mm-hmm.
And the person decides to open their wallet as if the guy wanted to put the change in the person's wallet.
Oh, yeah. I didn't see this either.
Yeah.
There's lots of good stuff in this little bit here.
That was 3844.
Okay. So there's also like 500 employees in this place. And then right after that, there's a guy who has, I wrote it all down. Dude buys 2 burgers, 2 fries, 3 Cokes, 2 shakes. And he's eating this all for himself.
And he said, why not?
Oh, man. I guess if
he almost looks like the owner of the Pizza Hut that we get to see next.
They look very similar.
Maybe they're bros.
Probably. Maybe he was just like goofing with Huell, and he's like, I'm taking it to my Pizza Hut, bro. And then they go to the Pizza Hut, which is also very popular. Valerie Ginsburg is the manager. The only name we really get in this whole thing. And best part of that, which we see an employee walk behind, is that this Pizza Hut also sells vodka.
Yes.
And they provided vodka for the members of the coup. Like, I don't know which side. But
he said pizza, Pepsi Cola, vodka, and coffee.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
He also said there were 2-hour-long lines still during the coup.
Oh, that's right.
Like tanks rolling by, and people, nope, I'm not going.
And Huell tries to say, is it because they thought it was going to be their last pizza? So, I don't know, maybe.
So then we're in Huell's host family house, I guess. And they're just watching Donahue. And it happens to be an episode with some bikini ladies.
Which ends up being a theme of the house, right?
True. Man, Huell really busts his kids' chops.
Dude, yeah.
So there's a bunch of teenagers in this house. And it looks like the boys' room...
No, I think it's just a common room.
It does kind of... Well, I thought they said it was his room, but yeah, it does look very big. And it's got all the books in it and everything. But he put up all his bikini posters.
He said, there's extra space. So I put up the bikini posters. And the mom said, oh, yeah, all the naturescapes are mine. And all the other ones are his.
Yeah. And the dude's got a girlfriend, and Huell's like, hey, what do you think about this? She's like, I think they're pretty, too.
Yeah. I was wondering if it was like a family room or something.
It does kind of look like it, now that you mentioned that.
I think he mentioned the apartment. Didn't he mention it was a 2-bedroom? Big by Moscow standards.
Yeah.
So these people... There's no dad, so there's what? 3? So there were 4 of them were staying in that place.
Yeah. Okay.
This girl tells a sad story toward the end about sugar.
Yeah.
They almost just start...
sugar rationing that was
just
going on.
laugh about it because they don't have a lot. And she said, the rationing cards they don't really matter either because there's just no sugar to ration. Like, okay. Okay, well, next scene.
Yep. On to the soccer stadium. Not a ton to say there. Basically, the military team has all the military fans, and they're just sitting real quietly. And it makes sense because there's the boss standing up behind them, making sure they don't
cheer,
act a fool,
no,
or
it's like
even
just,
be normal. Yeah,
just say a word. Looks like it's like these aren't your hype boys.
No.
So
we switch gears. We're now in a car. We're going to the outskirts.
Trying to get to a collective farm, right?
Yeah, and Huell's in the car with 2 psychology professors, one from the University of Moscow, one from UC Santa Cruz for some reason. Guess he's hanging out. And a UC Santa Cruz psychology, did I say? Professor going to a co-op farm does make sense to me. But then we get to the gas station.
Should I jump ahead? Does be a good joke?
Which one?
When the kids, once they get to the farm, they start singing. Okay. Well, well, the kids are that at the farm. They start singing the song of the Communist Party
at the top of their lungs,
but as a joke. But I wonder if he didn't get the joke, start singing with them, and showed his cards.
Oh, man, I didn't even think about that.
That'd be so funny.
Oh, man.
All right, we'll get back to the gas station.
Yeah, we get to the gas station, long lines to get gas, and turns out that it doesn't really have anything to do with gas rationing. It's just that the attendant was taking a break.
Did Nastia?
Yeah,
I want to call her Anastasia. I think I like calling her Anastasia.
Either way, I
She's
guess.
the same person.
Yeah.
Anastasia. So she ends up saying, "Oh, she might have went to go get money or something else, or maybe took a tea break."
Yeah.
It's like, took a tea break.
Yeah.
There's lines, like 30 cars each
But then
row.
she just walks up, doesn't say anything, and just opens
But
the
no
window.
one says anything to her either.
No.
It's sort of just everyone's okay with it.
Yeah.
Just how it is. So.
Then we head to a roadside market, or not a market, just like a farmer, and is selling some onions. And I guess Huell is the first American to ever buy his onions. And there's quite a photo op.
Yeah. Which you'll see the screenshot when we post this guy on Instagram. That guy looked and spoke so angrily.
Mad.
Just so mad. So I thought Anastasia I thought in my own head.
I
it's
know
obviously not
exactly
true.
where you're going.
I had a feeling she didn't translate what he actually said.
It looked like he was saying, "Hey, dirty American, get at it!" Like that's the vibe that you get when you hear this guy. And the translation was something of like, "Blessings to you." It's very.
Just did seem like it fit, like came out of his mouth.
I don't. I want to believe that he was being nice, but every bit of him, it just the vibe is anger.
Absolutely.
Then we're in Coloma, which is a town of Russian Orthodox monasteries and churches that have been shut down for decades because of the, Soviet Union being themselves.
Well, this is one of the things that Anastasia says that I liked. Is she says they've been closed down for several dozens years.
Dude, I wrote that too.
And that
Many
reminded me
dozens
of
of years.
when Mankind said to his dozens and dozens of fans.
That was during the Rock and Sock Connection years, yeah. It's a pretty... It's a more serious little section here because these... the ladies at these monasteries obviously are finally getting to be in these churches for the first time in dozens of years. And it means a lot to them. And Huell is very nice to them. And, they were used as, military warehouses?
Yep.
For a while. Well, they're open now as of 91. I don't know now. Who knows?
Yeah, I didn't check into it.
Because we didn't really get more than just the town's name. But they head back on the road, still trying to find this co-op. And that's where we find out that Russian road maps are less than reliable.
Let's just go with they have roads that don't exist so they can confuse potential spies.
Oh, man.
It makes you
so
wonder,
crazy.
like, he could have just said, yeah, I could have went down to the corner in Los Angeles and picked one up and brought it
I know,
with me.
because they said, like, a more reliable map you would find in New York or Europe. Like, okay, that makes sense, because they're probably not looking to confuse the spies.
I think we get to this kid.
Yeah, we do end up, like, despite the maps, we do end up at the co-op with, as Alan was saying, the kids singing the communist theme at the. He's screaming this thing like an inch from the camera.
Surprised he didn't
Oh, man.
blow out the mic. There wasn't. He
Yeah.
actually caught it all.
And another, like, Huell obviously used up most of his tape by the time he got there because there's just a few shots of them picking potatoes. And then we're kind of wrapping it up for our first big, huge segment here. Did you have anything else about them?
No, just the fact that they're students and they come out for a few weeks a year. And I think the way Huell described it as they help the peasants
Yeah.
gather potatoes, which I thought, that's all they do.
Yep. Huell ends the show in his host family's house eating some borscht and drinking champagne.
And let's just say it's steaming.
Dude,
You can just see it.
it's so hot. And then the credits roll, and Huell has a lot of like snapshots that he took on the trip, and these are pretty funny. Like it's definitely worth watching the credits and seeing all the different photos he took on the trip, because I don't know who was taking all these pictures. I guess Anastasia. It's weird because here I am in the credits, and it just says Nastya.
And here's the thing. If you try to pronounce that, leave off the A. It just says nasty.
Yeah.
That's why I had to spell it Naasta. So, anyway.
Yeah.
So at the end of this episode, Huell teaches us a word.
Yes.
Das Bedanya, which means
Hang loose.
hang loose, chaka.
See ya, brah.
Is that how it is? It's chaka, right?
Yeah. I guess.
Okay.
Well, we could end there. Like that's plenty of Huellness.
But that's not enough for an in-betweener.
No, because Huell really kind of followed the story of Roman and Ludmila Genn, who we met a little while ago.
Mm-hmm.
Because Huell was kind of instrumental in getting them out of Russia.
Yeah.
In a nutshell, Huell had Hello Moscow play on PBS in California. Someone saw this show, thought that, there was a lot more to this, but basically they then started the process of trying to get Roman and Ludmila out of there through some sort of legal
Which did you
processes.
catch on? Was there something they were in danger, or is that what you got from it?
Not from the show. I mean, if you go to romangenn.com, because he's ended up becoming quite a person.
Yeah.
He was getting himself in trouble with those cartoons, the political cartoons he was doing, and he and his mom were, I guess, sponsored is the word, sponsored to be able to immigrate to the United States through the Library Minyan Temple Beth Om Church Synagogue. Either one, I don't know.
Okay. So and it was Huell, this person, and that foundation, or
that's the gist
synagogue?
I'm getting. Yeah.
Okay.
And so this happens, like a year and a half later, and this becomes another episode of Visiting. Really, actually, the fourth episode of Visiting. Because like we said, the first one was a video log, second one was a Visiting, this is also a Visiting that we're entering now, and this one is called Roman Genn, which is Visiting episode number 104. And this is kind of our first update about old Roman. And they made it to the U.S. And that's right where we start, the airport. Now, first thing right off the bat, what did you notice about the airport scene?
Nothing super.
You didn't notice that Huell makes sure that he hugs her before
I
any
did
of
notice
what?
that. I have to watch
She
it now.
like comes right off the gateway, and Huell just gets in there and wraps her up. As the first one to hug her before any of the people like at the temple, maybe even her family members, who knows? And Huell's right there.
That's
and that's a pretty quick little short segment. And then we go to, in fact, Huell even says we fast forward.
This had to be overwhelming, though.
For her.
Okay, they land. Yeah. She has her bags. She's worried the bags didn't make it. And then we understand why she's so worried.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Because, she sees her apartment for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's partially furnished, looks like. And she pulls her bag and busts out some cups, some
like
plates.
China.
Like china.
Yeah.
Fine, real nice stuff.
Yeah.
And she had shalamied it between the clothes. She pulls it out, and he says, oh, well, this is why she wanted to pull it out, because she throws a party.
Right off the bat.
Right off the bat. As soon as she gets into the place, within an hour, she's having a party.
And, like, no joke, it's like a full-on tea party with, like, 15 people around this table, including Huell. Then we do the fast-forwarding, and we're, like, a month in, and the thing that, which, it's so weird that they spent so much time about this bookcase that's, like, kind of rickety. But I guess there's a bookcase full of books that almost fell onto Roman during the earthquake, the Northridge earthquake it would have been.
She was having fun.
She loved it. Roman, not so much, but yeah, I guess.
So this is really more of a show about his acclimating.
Yeah, this was, because at this point he's not really known beyond just the few little people who know him from this show, and he did some political cartoons in Russia that got him in trouble, like we said, and he, at this point, has sold a couple to the LA Times. Just a few. Now, we're going to fast forward again once we see some more of his cartoons. Huell's busting his chops about getting in trouble with politics again. Then we're going all the way, we're fast forwarding 2 years now. We're in 1993. Where was this? Oh, the Irvine Valley College art, or like it's a art exhibit that he's in. This dude, it looks like he aged 15 years. Because he looked so young before, and now he's 20. So he went from, 18 to 20. Bam. He's grown up.
And he was having his caricatures, right, his cartoons, they were published in the LA Times at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll ask him how did you get him in the Times? It's like, oh, I just kept showing up there.
Yeah.
Which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And then we get to meet his mom, who
We
doesn't
meet
have
her.
quite the same good news.
Yeah, she
in
does
her
not.
life.
Yeah. She did not seem as happy about making this transition to the U.S.
And she says, well, I was mugged and my car caught on fire. It's like, oh.
While laughing the whole time.
Yeah, she said, oh, also there were the riots and earthquakes.
Yeah, she still seems to really have liked the earthquake. She didn't want to say she enjoyed the riots, is what she said. But she wasn't surprised, because that's what they were taught in Russia, that America was like.
Yeah.
Which, I guess I can't argue. It really did happen. The riots happened. It was a little different than maybe was being taught in Soviet Russia, but...
She said something. It was a classy way to talk about it, though. She said, I was uncomfortable, but I wasn't afraid.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah. But she seems like she prides herself on being a tough lady, because when she got mugged, she fought back and, got
so
roughed
crazy.
up bad, she said. And then, the car catching on fire the night before she started as an interpreter or an interpretation teacher. Dude, this lady.
That's crazy.
She definitely had a rough couple first years.
Yeah. And she also missed the weather.
Oh, yeah,
in
she liked the
Russia.
cold.
She said she stood out. She wanted to stand outside. I forget exactly what she said. She wanted to stand outside for the few days that it rained in a row.
Yeah.
Or the week or something.
So, at the point that this episode ends, which we were just flashing through this real quick, there's a lot more details to it that you could...
Well, it's technically 2 hours worth of material,
Yeah.
so...
And this is episode 3 of the 4 that we're doing. Again, Roman Genn visiting number 104. And we're going to fast forward again for our 4th and final episode that we are chronicling for the Huell Goes to Russia series here. Roman Genn update, visiting number 514 from 1997.
Yes. And Genn, or I should say Roman, has totally transformed into a 90s sitcom character at this point. It's just what he did.
He's so sarcastic and fast-witted and kind of self-deprecating.
Yeah. Well, and Huell even notices it because he says, I see what you're doing with your eyes. Because he knows that he's going to go to a sarcastic joke.
Yeah.
He's like, but seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And Huell will try to get a few questions, real answers out of him.
Yeah. So this last episode, it's a second update because Roman has really become nationally known for these political cartoons that he's done. And that's mostly what this episode is. It's Huell and Roman standing in Roman's living room of his apartment, going over his career up to this point. And like we said, Roman kind of is just making fun of himself, and Huell's having to like be serious about it. And it's interesting because Roman really has done a lot and really gotten himself really mixed up in this political cartoon game here. And what did you think about the work he's done? Like just in an artistic manner.
I thought it was interesting.
Yeah. Like he's obviously super good at what he does. These caricature style things.
The thing that I like
drawings.
about it is that he treats everyone the same. Like in the character. Like nothing, because there are certain elements, and he makes note of this. He's like, well, people don't like when I play with ethnicities.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I mean, everything you see, he treats everyone the same. Like everyone's a cartoon in the same way. So it's not like not exaggerated. Or
and
anything.
Huell tries to like kind of, get it out of him that he isn't always totally bipartisan, I guess. Like he lets it know which way he leans politically. And he said, oh yeah, I'm a self-proclaimed right-winger. And Huell kind of just, it's weird because Huell's so apolitical so much of the time that he really gets into this, and you understand that Huell obviously followed politics and the news a lot because he knew every name, every event right off the top of his head, and I wouldn't have suspected that of him.
No. Even the previous episode when he talks about the chief of staff.
Oh, Sununu. I had to look him up.
Me too. And then he ends up saying, oh, he's the chief of staff of the...
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay.
I mean, again, that was 91. I was not even 10 years old yet, so
right.
I wouldn't have known that, but...
Well, since we're talking about that, he actually, Huell, those initial sketches, I noticed before that scene transitions that he picks up and holds on to it. I wonder if he took that.
Oh, man. Well, in this last one that we're doing now, Huell mentions that he bought a lot of those cartoons from Roman back on that flea market. And Roman is hot about that.
Yeah.
Did you notice that?
Yeah.
Because Huell says that he bought a lot of them, and you can tell Roman really wants them back because he even says, I sold a lot of stuff I shouldn't have when I was younger.
Then he says about when Huell says he has a few, he says, do you want to sign them? Because I think they're worth some money these days. He's like, yeah, do you want to sell them back to me?
Yeah. And in fact, Huell then goes into kind of wrapping up the whole story, this whole Roman Genn story up to this point in 97. And he says that he feels semi-responsible for getting Roman to the U.S. And he totally should. I mean, he broke the story, and this guy would not have made it to the U.S., I don't think, at least as soon as he did.
Yeah. I can see
Roman's response to all of this, like talking about it, is he just says, give me back my drawings. Really kind of like a kid, like, give me my ball back kind of a way. Like, he's hot about this.
Oh, man.
But this one, there's not a lot of action in this one. It really is kind of just going over the drawings, going over the history of his
Which they're worth checking out.
career. Yeah, he's obviously very prolific, and he ended up really doing quite a lot. Because, again, this is 1997, and he's still at it to this day. In fact...
Yep, the National Review, right, that we saw there. Is he still there, or what's he doing?
I don't know. Is he? Did you...
Yeah, he's the contributing editor.
That's right, yeah.
To that. So I guess he moved... He's not just supplying cartoons now. He's actually...
He's all in it. There's a video...
Yeah, sorry. That's at least according to his website, which hasn't been updated since, 16, so...
Yeah. Well, there's a video on that website from 2014 where he does give Huell credit for kind of launching him into his career in the U.S., which, this is Huell's gold, so we want to give him a lot of credit, but there were other people involved, but just imagine if Huell hadn't have gone there and just run into him. Like, who knows?
Yeah. Oh, life's weird like that.
Yeah. That kind of wraps up this Moscow adventure.
Yeah. That's about it.
Yeah. It was quite a ride, and we jumped all over the place time-wise. Started in 1990, ended in 1997. Well, technically, even the video for the YouTube video, this is 2007. So 17 years of Huell's adventures in Russia.
He decided to go to Russia, and he makes an impact there. Brings the cartoonist back.
Exactly.
Interesting.
So we're starting a new season next week.
You excited?
Season 4. Yeah. In fact, we're starting... It's weird going back to California because we went all over the place this episode. But we are looking at water under pressure.
Sounds like a good time.
Yeah. We're going to see some of the hydraulic mining that was done up in the gold country, and we are going to see California's Old Faithful geyser. Did you know we had one?
I didn't.
Yeah. Well, Huell's here to always give us the scoop on California's gold. And we're always here to give you the scoop on Huell's gold. And we hope that you come along with us next week and every week as we continue our search for gold.
Свободное, дружбы народов надежные